It's hard to believe, but the Komet season is almost here. We're taping this on a Wednesday afternoon. Tonight, the first preseason game as they head to Wheeling as the K's get the 2013-2014 ECHL season going. Alongside Blake Sebring, the longtime beat writer of the Komets for the News Sentinel, I'm Glenn Marini. And in this special preseason edition, we're going to talk a lot about the individual players that the Komets have this season because
we don't have enough time.
I was going to say, you're going to need to get a roster when you go to the Coliseum this year. We talk every year, it seems like less and less.
I need a roster. I'm supposed to be studying them.
I know. I need a pronunciation guide is what I need. But first off, Blake, last season obviously did not go as well as Komets fans expected, as well as the Francouz expected, as well as Al Sims and everybody expected. What is the biggest takeaway from last season that you see applied to this season already that's going to make it a more successful year?
I'll tell you what, Gary Graham runs completely different practices than Al did. Al was very much, let's get in, get our work done, and get out. Gary's very meticulous. He's very, all right, we're stopping this right here. Why didn't you do what you were supposed to do? Do you understand what you're supposed to do? We're going to keep doing it until you do what you're supposed to do. And it's just a different, totally different aspect.
One of the things that all the players said when I asked them about Gary on Monday at the Komets Media Day, they said enthusiasm. That was the number one thing that everybody said. Do you see that on the ice, and how does that play over? Because he's a younger guy, an energy guy, and this is a young team.
It's weird. It's almost like these guys are feeding off him. The scrimmages, you would think, previously the last 5, 6, 7 years, they would start off really good and then get worse as the legs got tired. That hasn't been the case this year. The scrimmages have actually been getting better day by day when you'd think they'd be getting worse as their legs just give out, but they haven't been. I mean, it's been very up-tempo. I wrote about how nobody's dogging it, because if they were, they would stand out like crazy because everybody's pushing it. All the forwards are coming back defensively. It's really been impressive to see.
That's one of the things that Kaylee Schrock also hit on Monday is that his job is a little bit in question. They're playing for their jobs out there. When it comes to Schrock and Marino, when you take a look at this roster, those are really the leaders coming back. As far as captaincy, who do you see maybe as Gary Graham?
I think it's already been decided, and it's been decided on the ice. I think it's going to be Nick Tuzzolino. I mean, you watch him, and he's talking all the time, and he's making sure guys know where they're supposed to go before face-offs, and he's just does it naturally. I mean, it's completely within his game. It's not like he's forcing it or trying to, he's not yelling to be heard. He's just talking normally, and guys listen.
You think Tuzzolino over a guy like Marino, who was the Komets MVP last season and was really one of the bright spots in the season?
Oh, I have nothing against Brandon at all. I mean, it's just a totally different thing. In Nick, it doesn't matter if you put a C on his chest or not. He's going to be that guy. That's just the way he is. The guy with the C never sees the C. So he just reacts the way he is. And that's what Nick does. He's just that way.
We'll talk about Tuzzolino and the size that they've added on the back end, which is going to be a big difference from last year. But as far as the offense goes, Chris Auger returns. A couple years ago, he scores 28 goals in the regular season, 10 in the postseason. He was fantastic then, but in Game 4 last year, he tears the ACL. What can we realistically expect from him? Because it sounds like he thinks he's 100%, and he got a full summer of skating in back home.
I don't know that anybody could be 100%. And I will give Chris all the credit in the world. He has to think that way. He has to react that way. I think he's still getting used to the brace, the knee brace, completely understandable. And I think he's just going to get better. But he's already at a pretty good level. I was impressed. He's a lot further along than I think you could normally expect.
And one of the familiar faces, Mike Vascovo, when we saw him last, they picked him up, I believe it was from Rapid City for nothing,
right.
essentially. And he came in, and 2 months later, he's the playoff MVP, and he's hoisting the cup here in Fort Wayne. Played a season over in France, in Grenoble, I believe. So what can we expect? Because Komets fans remember this guy as a guy that can handle the puck.
It'd be like when we used to always talk about, why would John Anderson ever come back? What's he got to prove, after that John Anderson game? I mean, it's kind of like the same with Mike. It's like, what's he got to prove? And he's like, I don't care. I want to play. I mean, he just wants to play and have fun, and it's really wild, Glenn. I'm telling you, this training camp has been by far the best training camp I've seen in 10 years. And these guys are having so much fun playing together, and they're all working so hard. It's just kind of like they all fit together. It's kind of interesting. There's like 14 forwards who could easily have made last year's team, and probably 3 of them are going home somewhere, or they're going somewhere else in the ECHL.
So would you say that the talent level has upped quite a bit? Because I think last year, on paper, the approach looked like, let's get a bunch of CHL All-Stars and put together a CHL All-Star team and then play in the ECHL. This year they've went out and got guys who have proven themselves before in the ECHL, and then guys under the radar like Paul McElveen, who's coming off an injury and has something to prove.
I think the depth is the biggest thing. I think there's no doubt that guys like Colin Chalk and some of those guys, Brett Smith, obviously could play in the ECHL. There's no question. But there wasn't the depth on the back end of the roster. There's more than enough depth there now. Like I said, I would think there could be 4 or 5 guys who might get released from this camp who I could very easily see playing in the ECHL somewhere this year.
I want to talk about McElveen because he's one of the guys that really intrigues me, because this is a guy out in Utah 2 years ago. He's got 30 goals. I talked to him on Monday. He's like, I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
Missed all but 9 games last year with an injury. I'm feeling great. His goal is 40 goals.
I think he's
50 goals.
He's the best shot in the team right now. I mean, in the scrimmages, he's wicked, deadly. I mean, he's a true sniper. You never know when he's letting go of the shot. And if you're not prepared, it's scary. I mean, he's the quickest. He's got the quickest feet. He's got a great release. He's just kind of scary how good he could be. And, how we always used to tease Colin that he would pass up a good shot to find a better shot for somebody else. Oh, not McElveen, boy. He gets it. He's letting it go. I mean, he's firing.
And I know one guy that Komets fans are excited to see come back. He's 6'3", he's got a big body, and we saw him really improve in the second half of last season. Matt Furman up front, because the Komets, as big as they are on the back end this year, which we'll talk about in just a second, they're not exactly huge up front, but Furman does give them a big body, a guy that can bang around the crease.
So does Jake Hosworth, who's been really impressive too. The first 3 scrimmages, Matt's been a little inconsistent. Yesterday was his best day by far. One thing I've been impressed, though, is he was charging out to block shots. I think he's blocked one in every scrimmage, and that's something that really has stood out. But he knows, and Gary Graham knows, that he's got to be physical or he's not going to be much good. Because he is one of the big guys. If he doesn't play physical and play hard and play in front, then I can find another guy who's quicker and faster than you to play that spot, who doesn't necessarily have to do that stuff. So if you're going to try to do that stuff, you're not going to be very good.
As far as the offensive issues last year, they didn't score a lot. Power play was one of the worst in the ECHL.
Probably one of the worst they've ever had.
Yeah. That was one of their problems. Size on the back end, speed perhaps as a team, and then playing well at home. They did not play well at home last year. Do you feel like through the roster additions and the moves that they've made, they've kind of rectified those situations? They immediately addressed their major issues?
Well, look at what they did on the power play. Look at the guys they signed. They got Rob Quiet. They got Bobby Hughes. They got Nick Tozzolino. They've got McElveen. I mean, they went out and got guys who specifically could play different spots on the power play. Jake Hosworth is another one. Gary basically designed his power play by the guys he signed. And it was not going to be the same situation again. He's got guys who can play anywhere. McElveen can play the point. I mean, he's got guys who can do just about anything out there. Tristan King is another one. I mean, they're very, very versatile. They're very quick. I have a feeling, the Komets used to like to set up the point last year, and they would shove the puck down low and then hold it till the defense came to them, and then whip it out. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think they're going to be constant movement, constant pressure on the defense.